Hey everybody, this is Ray from Car Freaks. I have a buddy that brought his Buick over. He's got the 3800 2-port injection V6 engine in it. He has an issue with power steering pump leaking a little bit. I think it's probably just an O-ring between the reservoir and the pump, but he said he didn't want to fiddle with it. He just put a whole new assembly on it, so that's what we're going to do. He also has the hoses are leaking where the crimps are. So we're going to replace the hoses and the pump, pretty much the whole system, except for the rack. First thing we're going to do is take off the cross member here. There's a couple little shims, one on each side behind this. So I'll make sure when we pull that apart we don't drop them and lose them. And then we're going to take the tension off the belt. And then we're going to loosen this all up. Hopefully it'll come apart fairly easy, so we'll loosen everything up. I don't know that we'll take it off right away, because what I want to do is I want to go underneath and take the lines off the rack before we get too much of this apart. And then we'll just pull it all out in assembly and put it on the bench. We'll assemble the other lines in accordance with this, so everything should just fall right back in, and all we have to do is put the lines on at the bottom and then put this in, and then go ahead and put the fluid in it, and we should be good to go. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is power steering setup. Doesn't really matter if you got this exact same car, a Buick especially. A lot of these Buicks with this 3800 were really similar. But even a lot of the other GM makes, especially like the Pontiacs and the Buicks obviously, and the Oldsmobiles, they were very similar. Even some of the Chevys, still pretty much the same procedure. Parts may look a little different, might be in a little bit different spot, but the procedure is pretty much the same. I'm not telling you how you should do yours, but this is how I do these. And they're a pretty good little system. There's a lot of these cars out on the road yet, but once in a while, you develop leaks. So we're going to get this taken care of. He's going to head down to Florida here in a month or so. It's about a 22, 24-hour run for him where he's headed. So we don't want him having any troubles going down the highway. So we'll dig into it. So first thing we're going to do is get the bolts here loosened up. Yeah, they're not real tight, so we'll get the ones on the other side loosened up. There we go. And then it's much faster, obviously, to use. There we go. Like I said, there is a little shim here. I don't know if we can work that out of there right away. Up there it is. There's the little shim. We'll go to the other side. There it is. Got the shim. Alright, this here, we'll just remove the cap for now. It should pull out like that. There we go. There's our cross brace. Now we'll take, let's see, I think it's a 15 millimeter. Yep. And then we'll put a breaker bar on that. Alright. Get the tension off of that. There we go. Just take our it up here out of the way. Alright, now once you get the belt off, this pulley here moves freely, or hopefully it moves freely, and you can go right through the holes here and get to the bolts on the back side. So let's see if we can break them loose again. Oh, that's a 13 millimeter. There we go. And then just spin it down and we can get to the next one. There we go. They weren't super tight, but they were definitely snug. Alright, and then we can put our ratchet on there. I like to break things loose with a breaker bar before I actually use my ratchets on there. It makes the teeth of the ratchets last a little longer. Even though, you know, your better quality tools have warranties and whatnot on, but it's still a hassle being without your favorite ratchet if the teeth go bad. So it only takes just a few extra seconds to put the socket on the breaker bar and take the tension off the bolt, loosen it up, and that way I don't have to worry about stripping the heads off my ratchets. Alright, the bottom one should be just about out of there. The top one actually goes through the pump, goes through the bracket, and then it threads into this bracket right here, which is a brace down to the motor. So we're not going to take that brace off. We're just going to loosen everything up here good. And let's see, is that one? Yeah, that one's loose. Okay. And we'll get this one here loosened up. And because of that, the upper bolt will be longer than the lower bolt. They're different colors also, so there's a couple different ways of telling them apart, but obviously the longer bolt needs to go into that bracket. There we go. So and we'll just pull this bolt out. There's the longer one that went on the top. And here's the one that went on the bottom. So you can see the difference. And obviously this top one isn't going to thread in, so even if you do get them mixed up, it's still not going to work. So okay, we got that taken basically off. I'm just going to let it set right here for now, and we'll get underneath. We'll break the lines loose down there, and then we'll take the hoses off. Now the setup that this particular one has is a little bit different than most of them. It actually has a electrical connection here, because there's it's an electrical valve that is put in here, and when I looked up the parts for this, it was very hard to find this particular pump. It must be a rare item, so hopefully the one you're working on will be a little bit easier. It has that on it, which makes where the lines go in just a little bit different. Also, the line that goes down, the pressure line goes down to the rack and pinion. The return line that comes back from the rack and pinion to the reservoir here has just a little cooler on it. That line I could not find. I looked through several places. I called our local auto parts store. They didn't even have it on their computers. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put just the standard line on. that goes from the power steering box up to the reservoir without the little cooler on it. It's apparently not recommended to do that, obviously, because of the OEM is the better way of doing it. But this LeSabre only had it in like 2 years, and it's a very rare thing. Just certain models had it. Why this one had it, and I can't get parts for it. I don't know. All the other LeSabres that I looked up didn't even have that system on it. It's a rarity apparently. So all those ones are working without that little cooler on it. I explained it to my buddy. He says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "We're not, we're not racing it or anything like that, so there's no reason of having the cooler on it probably anyway." Obviously, if you can't find the line with the cooler on it, it's not needed. It could be. So we're going to put it together and we're going to eliminate the cooler. I don't know that the cooler does much because it's such a small cooler, and it may have been something that the auto manufacturer was trying for a little bit, and maybe it didn't even affect anything and they just eliminated it in other models, so I'm not sure. But apparently it was something that they were trying to do. Why they were trying to cool the fluid down, I don't know. But apparently it didn't need to be cooled down because all of your other lines don't have the cooler on them, so apparently it didn't make that much difference. Anyway, I'll get off that. I'll take the camera off the tripod for a few minutes. I'll show you what the lines look like down there, and then I'll go ahead and do it, and then I'll show you putting the new lines on. So here we go. Gonna get the camera off the tripod. There we go. And it's probably kind of dark under here, we'll see. But the lines come down. Here is the line that I was talking about with that little bitty cooler. So this is actually the return line. It comes down here. Actually, the pressure line comes down and it goes into the rack there. That little cover is the heat shield for the exhaust for the line. So it comes down to there, and then it comes back up, goes through here, and then goes back up the reservoir. So that's our rack companion right there on that cross member. And if you can see over there, that's where the lines are going to be unhooked. So we'll start off by taking this off here, and we'll have to remove that little heat shield, and then we'll loosen up the lines, and then we'll try to pull it all out. Okay, hey everybody, this is Ray again from Car Freaks. We have our old power steering pump out, and the pressure line is still attached to it. This was the return line. There's the little cooler I was mentioning earlier. So we're just going to set this down out of the way, and we're going to concentrate on the pump itself. We need to get this pulley off so we can put it on our newer pump, our rebuilt pump. So, and it looks like we still have some fluid that's leaking out of that a little bit. So I'll just kind of set it like that, and I'll get a rag over here. Alright. There we go. Now, these pulleys aren't that hard to get off if you have the right tools. Now, I own this tool, but you can get these tools from a lot of your auto parts store. They're not that expensive. A lot of your auto parts stores will actually let you rent them. So you know, if you don't have a tool, it's not a big deal. You can get them. Maybe a buddy that you know has one. Okay, so first thing we need to do is set our tool up. This back up. The tool also installs the pulley for you. Well, you have to install it, but it will enable you to put it back on. There we go. Tighten that up. There we go. And get a there isn't normally a lot of torque you have to put on them, but sometimes you have to rattle them a little bit. Okay, this one here is going to be a little tight, so what I'll do is I'll get my little gun. See how this works. There we go. And that's it. That's how they come off. Now we need to put this pulley onto our new pump, which is right here. Set this out of the way. Get some more fluid picked up. Okay. Now, this shoulder here goes flush with that. So, this is the way it goes on like that. We get back into our tools here. We don't need this. That away. And then this comes off of this. And goes into this. And what this does is it goes through here, then it screws into the inside of the shaft. There's a hole that goes through it, and there's threads. And then this thread's inside of it. Like that. And put it in there until it bottoms out. Get some threads on it, that way it don't hurt your tool. There we go. And then this part here comes down like that. I gotta get a 5/8 wrench. Alright. Oh, that's not 5/8. That must be 9/16. Alright, and then you just keep doing this. What that'll do is that'll push it right down on there nice and square, and it'll only go so far. Once it hits the bottom of that, that's it. It won't go any further. Let's see if I can hurry this along a little bit, and I will, yeah, I'll get this going. I will get back and when we get this tightened down, I'll get the hoses ready to go. I'll show you putting the hoses onto this, but I'm not going to bore you with tightening this up. So, okay, got this on there, it bottomed out. So now we just put our wrench on right, just loosen this up. And then we should be able to, there we go, loosen up our tool. Okay, and that's all there is to it. It just presses back on. Just make sure you're flush here on the face, and that's it. It's a done deal. So now that we got the pulley on our new pump, we're done with this. We'll put this out of the way. Then we have, remember this is what I was telling you about, that's where the electric plug-in goes. And then this is a plug that we have to take out. That's where our high pressure line goes, is into that. Make sure you wipe all that paint out of there. I guess they painted it after they were done rebuilding it. Okay, and this is our new pressure line. And we got new O-rings for it. So if you look at this one, it's the same line as what's on that one. So what you want to do is take the little O-rings. There's a little protector too, so when we push it under the car, we can take and put this on, and it won't affect our. And it's actually too small. It's not going to work. But anyway, we have our O-rings that go on both sides, and you want to lubricate these O-rings. What I use is a Vaseline. Works real well. This is dielectric grease for like doing electrical. It's about the same thing as Vaseline. It works very well. Just want to put a little bit on there, lube it up, and then roll the O-ring on. We don't want to put that on dry or whatever, because it'll put the there we go. You roll right over that, and what that does is it protects the O-rings from getting cut, and it also lubes them. It gets them to seal good. Some people do actually use these, and that may be what this is for. You put the O-ring on here, and you slide it over this, and then you put that over, and that's probably what that was actually for. But that's okay, because if you lube them up good and you're careful and you just roll it over the lip, it isn't going to cut them anyway. Okay, so that being said, this end here is the end that goes in here. Alright, now I'm not going to tighten it down real tight. I'm going to snug it up fairly decent, but once we get everything in the vehicle and get everything run, then what I'll do is I'll tighten everything up so it's not cocked one way or the other. So, alright, there's that. And then this line here is the other new one. Okay, obviously you can see this is a lot shorter line than what the one was that had the cooler on it. But it don't need to be as long as that one, because that cooler was mounted way over to the side, so the line went from the power steering box, or actually the rack, over to it and then come up and over, so it like backtracked. So this one here will just slide onto this port right here, and then there's a clamp that goes on there, and that clamp is still on that other line. We'll pull that off and we'll slide it down on this, and when we're ready to put that on, We'll slide that clamp back off. That's what the clamp looks like. It's just the stock standard clamp. So I'll get a pair of pliers. Alright, we'll squeeze this down. There we go, we'll remove it. Put this back over here out of the way. And we'll just slide that up there like that for time being. Okay, so that's basically it. We have another O-ring that'll go on this, which I have sitting right here. When we get ready to put that on, we'll put that O-ring on. And yeah, that'll be it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run the lines down in the car. I'll hook them up at the bottom, and then I'll put this in over there. We'll get the pump ready to mount in, and then I'll start video again. I'm not going to bore you with routing lines through and all that. You really can't get the camera up underneath there so you can see it anyway. So I'll do that, and then I'll see you in a few. Okay, we're back with the power steering pump being ready to put back on. The lines are all hooked up and run. The lines are hooked up here with the clip going down. They're hooked up to the rack and pinions box. This line here is tightened up. We still have the plug in the reservoir because we haven't got ready to put the fluid in yet. So now we have to hook up our wire, plug in here at the bottom. And again, very few of these have this wire. It's an electronical variable valve, I guess, is what it is. So we get this wire hooked up, plugged in, there we go. And now we can get the long bolt, line up our hole, goes in the top. We get that over there, alright. Should be able to start that. And I'm just using a deep well socket by hand at first to get things started here. Alright, now you get our other bolt in the bottom. Get it in the bottom hole here. Alright, and get that started in there. Okay, now we can put our ratchet on. And we can start tightening it back up. Alright, we'll snug the bottom up. We'll turn our hole so we can get to the top bolt, and we'll tighten it down. You'll want to check with your owner's manual and whatnot to find out what fluid is compatible with your system. A lot of times a automatic transmission fluid will work, but consult with your owner's manual for sure. That'll tell you what you can use. We'll tighten that one up. Go back to the bottom and tighten that one up. Okay. Now, ready to put our cross piece back in. This sometimes can be tricky, but here we go. We got our little shim. Let's get that started. Okay. I just have a Allen wrench that'll help pop that up in there and get the second one started. Get a few threads on it. Alright, and we'll go over to the other side. And we'll do the same thing here. Put this up in there and get our little shim in there. Get the first bolt started. This side's going much easier than the other side did. Get our second bolt started. Alright, that's tightened down. Now we can tighten these two back down. Okay, there's that one. That one. Alright, now pop our plug out of here, work that out of there. Alright. And I have a quart of new fluid here. We'll start putting that in. Okay, now this system is totally empty, so it's gonna take quite a bit. The lines have to fill up. We can go ahead and check it if you'd like to, but yeah, we're just barely on the stick. So, but I know it's gonna run down, so we'll just add some more to it. Okay. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start it, run it a little bit, and keep adding to it until it gets full. You want to keep it full, obviously. Check for leaks and whatnot. And if you see a few leaks, tighten them up, and you should be in good shape. All we got to do to button this up is put our belt back on, and we can do that right now. Belt ran here, so everything lines back up. Okay. Looks like we're back in all of our pulleys but the one for the alternator. And there we go. Make sure you double check your belt, especially down on the crankshaft and the, oh, looks like it's got to be repositioned down here just a little bit. There we go. All right. That looks like it slid off the crank just a little bit. Just make sure you get your belt lined back up because there's grooves in these pulleys, and make sure you get your belt lined back up in the proper grooves. And a lot of the pulleys have got little sides on them here, so you know when it's in there. The crankshaft pulley there, it's not quite in there where it needs to be, so loosen it up here and push it over. There we go. That should be it. And when you run it a little bit and you shut it off, check your fluid, check the belt again, just to make sure that everything is running where it should go, because you don't want to throw a belt off after doing a service like this. The belt was just put on maybe a month ago because the idler went out, and that's when a lot of this leaking and whatnot was noticed. So yeah, we'll start it up and run it and check the fluid again, and we'll just keep adding accordingly until it stops taking some. We'll keep checking for leaks. So there you have it. That's how you change out your lines and power steering pump on one of these little 3800 V6s. The 4 cylinders and whatnot, they're similar. There's going to be some different components in different places and stuff, but for the most part, the idea and principle is the same. Hoses are hoses, you know, and there's end fittings on them, and O-rings and whatnot. So pretty much the same procedure. Just take your time. It's not that hard. If you got the right tools, or have a buddy with the tools, or have a buddy that can help you out, great. But don't be afraid to tackle it yourself. It's not that hard. So we'll see you in the next video. So see ya.